The following podcast is a work of fiction, just like many of the stories surrounding serial killer H.H. Holmes. Much of his reputation is based on rumors and lies, and he didn't kill nearly as many people as he's often accredited with. Unless he did, history's confusing. Don't believe anything you hear on a podcast.
Hello, curious minds, and welcome to A Beginner's Guide to the Occult. I'm your host, Rebecca Morgan, back with a belly full of ramen noodles, coffee spiked with whiskey, and enough energy to finish my story of the Hotel of Horrors. So, let's jump right back into it. As soon as the ghost disappeared, I jumped out of bed, switching on the lights and grabbing the jar of salt from my bedside table, just in case. Then, I sat on the bed and reviewed the photos I'd just taken. There were 5 pictures, 4 of which were indistinct blue blurs, but the 5th was much clearer. It showed the ghost just before it vanished through the window, and in this picture, what had appeared to me as a shapeless blue orb looked very human. It looked like a woman in a long white dress looking back over her shoulder. Her face seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. I slept the rest of the night with my jar of salt clasped in one hand and my camera in the other. The next day, I decided to talk to some of the other people in the hotel, see if they'd experienced anything strange the night before. I went down to the lobby and found the old man reading the newspaper in the same seat he'd been in yesterday. Normally, I don't like to disturb people when they're reading. It's a bit of a dick move, but I'd literally never seen this man without a newspaper held 2 inches from his bifocals, so I didn't see any other option. It was a short exchange, and I remember it exactly. "Excuse me, sorry to bother you, but can I ask you a question?" "Huh? What's the matter?" "I was just wondering if you'd seen anything strange last night." "Strange like what? Another guest? Someone been bothering you?" "Oh no, nothing like that, but I did see a weird light through my window last night. A blue light. Did you see anything like that?" "Nope, nothing like that. You're probably just using your phone too much, sweetheart. Those things are bad for your eyes." I spent the rest of the morning tracking down other guests and asking them about the blue light. All my conversations were varying levels of insulting, but equally useless. I was about to give up around lunchtime when I noticed the concierge who'd checked me in yesterday walking through the lobby. He had a grey hoodie pulled over his uniform and his eyes fixed on the parking lot outside. He looked like he'd been working all night. "Hey, wait," I called after him. "Can I ask you a question?" "What? No, I'm off the clock. Ask someone else." The concierge sped up, almost jogging through the front doors of the hotel while he fumbled with his car keys. "Wait, please," I said. "Go away. Did you see a ghost last night?" The man paused. "Did I see a what?" "A ghost," I said. "Or a blue light coming from the park?" "I didn't see anything," he said, "because I don't go near that park anymore. And if you're smart, you won't either." And with that, he was gone, and I was left to ponder his advice and to choke on the exhaust from his beat-up Toyota Camry. I had lunch, pumpkin and feta salad, because I was in the mood to confront my fears. Then I took a nap, because I had plans for that night. Big plans. I woke up at 9:30 to the sound of my alarm. It was dark outside. I got dressed, checked that my backpack had everything I needed, and headed outside. A sharp wind blew through the empty park. I zipped my jacket right up to my chin and walked slowly, trying to seem open and responsive. If a ghost senses you're not willing to believe in their existence, they'll often just leave you alone. Why waste your time on someone who's going to write you off as a trick of the light? I came to the lake and stood there for a while, watching the reflections of the stars slowly drift across the sky. Then I walked across the bridge. The bridge did not feel nearly as sturdy as it looked, and it did not look sturdy. I walked to the middle and waited. The unfortunate thing about ghost hunting is that there's no real way to draw them out. You just sort of have to cross your fingers and hope that they feel like fucking with you. Fortunately for me, the ghost in question did. As I looked down at the lake, I noticed a blue light just under the surface of the water. The light started to sink deeper and deeper into the lake. I leant over the railing of the bridge, watching it slowly disappear. Then, as the light finally vanished, the wind kicked up and I was tossed over the railing into the murky depths. The water was surprisingly deep and unsurprisingly fucking freezing. It's a miracle I didn't catch pneumonia. Once under the water, I could see the light again, only this time it was no formless glow. It was a woman. The same woman I'd seen in the photograph I'd taken the night before. She floated towards me, her dress fanning out behind her. She placed her hands on my shoulders and spoke to me. I couldn't understand what she was saying because, water, but I didn't need to. It was the same message she'd been giving me since the beginning. Cut it down. I wanted to ask her to elaborate, but more than that, I wanted to fill my lungs with oxygen. So I swam back up to the surface, took a deep breath, and dove back down. But the woman was gone. I trudged back to my room, wet, freezing, and definitely being glared at by the cleaning staff as I left a trail of mud across the floor. I took a hot shower and tried to sleep, but it was impossible. I was too worked up. Also, I'd taken a really long nap during the day, and that always screws up my sleep schedule. I decided to take a walk around the hotel, mostly because my jacket was still wet and it was too cold to go outside without one. I found myself in the lobby, looking at the many pictures on the walls. And that's when I realized why the ghost was so familiar. Hanging behind the reception desk was a large photograph of a wedding party standing out in the park behind the hotel. There, in that same white dress, was the ghost I'd seen in the lake. I had so many questions. Who was she? How did she die? Why was she haunting this hotel? But there was nobody around to ask. So I resolved to come back in the morning and ask one of the staff about her. And that's exactly what I did. Yeah, you don't need to hear about me brushing my teeth before bed. This is my podcast. I can time jump. There was a different concierge on today, which was good because I doubt the other guy would have tolerated any more questions from me. The woman behind the desk had an optimistic smile that screamed, "This job is way better than my last one. They give me regular hours and regular breaks. I'm in heaven." I asked her about the picture, and she pulled up a book from behind the counter. "What's that?" I asked. "The owner keeps notes on all the pictures in the lobby. She's sort of an amateur historian." As a supernatural investigator, my two favorite words in the English language are amateur historian. The book was filled with letters, newspaper clippings, and notes written in neat but tiny handwriting. The concierge helped me find the section related to the wedding photo, and I spent a good half hour looking through it. Here's what I learned about the woman in the picture. Her name was Deborah Brooks. She got married to Michael Brooks on the 17th of August, 1972, at the Hotel Carlotta. Deborah was a high school English teacher and a regular participant in local cycling events. She had 2 children, Vincent and Tamara, and she and her husband died in a car accident in 2001. Clearly, Deborah was not the only ghost at the Hotel Carlotta, because she can't have been haunting the place for 50 years if she died in 2001. But she was the only ghost who'd made herself known to me, so I decided to focus my energy on her. I gave the book back to the concierge and got myself a coffee in the dining area. As I drank, I came up with a plan to communicate with Deborah. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. It was my last night at the hotel, and I didn't see myself having the money to return anytime soon. If I was going to make contact with Deborah, it had to be tonight. I set off through the park just after sunset, walking past the fruit trees and flower beds and heading straight for the bridge. I made my way carefully across the bridge, not wanting to take another impromptu swim. Once I'd reached the center, I sat down, pulled out my Ouija board, and began. "Hello, Deborah. My name's Rebecca. I'd like to talk to you." The blue light rose from the lake. I took out my bottle of holy water and held it up to my left eye. Looking through the water, I could see the spirit so clearly that I could make out the flowers sewn into the bodice of her dress. "You've been trying to communicate with me," I said. "Why?" "Cut it down!" "Cut what down?" The spirit tried to speak, but no sound left her mouth. This isn't uncommon, listeners. It's hard to communicate with the other side, no matter what side you happen to be on. That's why it pays to come prepared. I gestured to the Ouija board, and Deborah floated over to it. The following conversation happened via Ouija board, but it'd be painful to listen to me spell out every word, so just use your imaginations, okay? "Cut that fucking tree down," said Deborah. "What tree?" "The lemon tree. You have to get rid of it." "Why?" "Michael's allergic to lemons. He used to be here with me in the lake, but ever since they planted that damn thing, he's been hiding. Can't stand the smell of it. Makes his eyes water and his throat swell up." Deborah looked past me, glaring at the row of trees in the distance. "It's been there for 6 years. Do you know what that means? I've been stuck here by myself for 6 years." "That sounds awful," I said. "I'm so sorry." Yes, it's all very sad. Now could you be a dear and grab a fucking axe?" "Okay, all right, I'll cut it down. But can I ask you a question first?" "Well, it doesn't seem like I have much of a choice, so sure, fire away." "Why are you haunting this place? You didn't die here." Deborah stared at me for a moment, then shrugged. "This is where I spent the happiest day of my life," she said. "What, am I supposed to spend eternity hanging around a freeway overpass?" "Fair point," I said. I packed away my things and walked over to a small shed at the edge of the park. It was locked, but the lock was rusted, and with a couple of hard tugs, it fell away from the wooden door. There was an axe sitting just inside. It was not rusty. I found the lemon tree and got to work. Every strike of the axe sent a loud cracking sound through the quiet park. About halfway through my task, a couple of hotel staff came running out to stop me. Then they noticed the large axe in my hand and probably figured they weren't being paid enough to risk losing a limb. As the tree fell to the ground, I looked out to the lake. There were 2 lights flickering below its surface now, swirling around each other in an excited dance. Needless to say, I did not get to enjoy my final night at the Hotel Carlotta. I didn't even get to go up to my room and collect my suitcase. It was a good thing I had my backpack with me, or I would have been fucked. Instead, I spent the rest of my night at an all-night diner, drinking coffee and waiting for a call from the exterminator to say my apartment was poison-free and safe for human habitation. And that, listeners, was my first experience with the Hotel Carlotta, but hopefully not my last. Maybe one day, when I have a little more money and the staff have all forgotten my face, I'll be able to go back there and see what other spirits are hiding in that building. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this story and maybe learnt a thing or two. I know I did. Stay safe, listeners, and until next time, remember, sometimes true love means knocking an innocent ghost hunter into a freezing lake in an attempt to be reunited with your husband. Yes, I am still mad about that. My jacket was ruined. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support it on Patreon. That would be extremely cool of you. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rachel Fukar. Bye.